Thanks, Keith, for a very kind introduction. I hope the effect of coffee is not wearing off, and I'll like to begin my talk by asking a couple of questions. How many of you have been to India before? By a show of hands, great. And thank you. And how many of have not been to India before? Excellent. So I have a very enthusiastic crowd here then. Just before I start, I'd like to thank each one of you for being here and spending the next 30 minutes with me. So I thank each one of you to be for being here, and I'll try my best to give as much as information as possible in my talk further. So I'll be talking about arboriculture in India, but before I do that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So this is where I live in Mumbai, and I traveled all the way from there. And it was a long flight, but anyways. This is where Mumbai is and where my work, my house, everything is there. That's the map of Mumbai for you. And the beauty of this city is we have a 100 square kilometer national park right in the middle of the city, which has all sorts of wild animals, including leopards, about 30 to 40 leopards in there. And we have a lot of cases of leopards coming out into the city and attacking kids, small kids, or maybe dogs or something. That's another presentation for next time. And this is where I live. That's my house. It's not to scale. Don't worry. It's not that big. So, and that's where my office used to be before I started Tricotech. It's not very far from where I live. And this is where my office is now. Tricotech. It's in the southern suburbs of Mumbai. A little bit more about myself. We had a family business. My father is a renowned landscape horticulture. It's a very successful one, and I grew up looking at him, learning from him, and that's what influenced me to take formal education in this field. So I did my bachelor's in horticulture and did my master's in agriculture and environmental science back in 2010. Started doing some odd jobs. I did some bat surveys for ecological companies in the UK. Started gaining some experience, then went back to India, worked with some environmental companies, did some tree surveys, biodiversity assessments. So I started getting sucked into this world of arboriculture slowly. And then I started my own practice in environmental horticulture consultancy and arboriculture consultancy in 2013. And during this time, when I was working on my own, I got a lot of different kinds of projects. And as experiences came by, people came by, I started learning more about trees and more about how to manage them, because there was a lot of gap in expectations from what needs to be done and what was actually happening on ground. So that got me thinking. And one of the big projects that when I got involved in 2015, where almost 3,500 trees were impacted in that project. And it was a big responsibility, right from the survey to getting the permissions and getting the job executed by the contractor. So that's where I really decided I'm really falling short for such big projects, and I decided to take up the certification as a starting point in ISA. And I was the only Indian at that time. I hope I'm the only Indian right now as well. I haven't checked up on their website. So that's what it is now for me. And then in 2018, November last year, I started Tricotech with three other my partners, my friends. I'm the only tree guy in the company. The rest of them had their own niche in marketing, finance, and everything. So we all work together as a team. Earlier this year, as a stepping stone, we had a first international arboriculture conference in the city of Pune. I'll show you some pictures as we move forward. So I'll be talking about the challenges that we have. The first challenge that you can evidently see in the picture itself is there's no space. Trees are just cramped up among people, and people are cramped up around trees. So population and space is a big challenge for us in India. And obviously the weather conditions, we belong to a tropical, subtropical climatic conditions. So we have really heavy torrential rains from June to September every year. It's a challenge as well as a potential for us, because there is no arboriculture industry, so which gives us a lot of room to play around, to bring in more collaborations and bringing new technologies to India. But I'll speak as both as a challenge and potential as well when I go forward in my talk. The other challenge is a lot of outdated practices that we have. This is just an overview. I'll be showing you more pictures and what's actually happening on ground. Cultural challenges or cultural views that we have towards trees. That is something I would like to share with you. And obviously, like any other country or city, we have a lot of administrative and political challenges, which I'll discuss. So that's Mumbai city. That's an aerial view south of Mumbai. As you can see, there's not many trees, but yes, it's quite green. We have about 30 million trees in Mumbai. Sorry, 3 million trees in Mumbai, and a lot of the quality of air or the temperature is being regulated by the national park, which I just showed you before. So just some facts and figures about India, and in comparison to London, UK, so that you get the perspective of what I'm talking about. So Mumbai is about 2.5 times smaller than London, and 2.5 times more in population compared to London. So that's the challenge that we have. Cars, well, we have a little bit more cars, but obviously why I'm showing this is in winters the pollution levels, the air quality levels drops down, whereas in monsoon it again goes back up good and normal. But it's all attributed to a lot of fossil fuel burning through cars. So there are a lot of public transport projects coming up, but this is a big challenge for us. The roads are small, too many cars, there's traffic everywhere. I'm sure Jeremy and Chris, if he's here, they can relate to what I'm talking to. So yeah, the number of trees, we have about 3 million trees. We just finished a tree survey in 2018 for Mumbai city, and we got about 3 million trees. That's excluding the national park, of course. And London has obviously more than 8 million trees, if my numbers are correct. So the tree to human ratio is quite low in Mumbai. We have 1 tree for 8 people, whereas in London you have a very balanced. I hope you guys are happy with that balance that you have here. Extreme weather conditions. So this was one of the deluge, the floods that we had in 2005, and also quite recently we had a few incidents. But this poses a big challenge for us, especially from June to September, when a lot of times the city comes to a standstill, right from the airports, bus stations, the trains and everything, the traffic, roads. Even people can't really move about. If they're stuck in the office, they're in the office for next 3 days. So that's what we have in Mumbai. So average rainfall is about 4 times more as London, but obviously the climatic conditions and the temperate and the subtropical zones are different. So, but we get really intense rains. That's what my point is. And recently, in June, we had some we had a low pressure belt in the Arabian Sea on the west coast of Mumbai, which triggered a cyclonic storm, very strong winds, and in one day we had about 75 trees falling down, which was quite serious. The temperature wise, if you want to plan your vacations, probably don't do it in summers. You can do it in winters from November to February, when it is quite ambient and very pleasant. And annual average humidity is almost 75%, so you kind of sweat a lot even if you walk for a few meters and you start sweating. So that's the weather conditions that we have in Mumbai. This was just recent on 4th of September. It's just appalling, and it was one of the busiest roads in Mumbai. It's not that the whole city gets flooded, it's only the low-lying areas which has these problems. And in 6 hours, we had almost 206 millimeters of rainfall, which completely crippled the traffic and the whole public transport system. And yes, that's what leads, this is what leads to all those weather conditions. We have a lot of tree fall issues, branch falling, but it's not just attributed to the climatic or the weather conditions. It's some of them could possibly be man-made reasons as well, because of poor practices or poor plant selections in the past. But last year in the monsoon, we had about 500 trees or branches failing just in those 4 months, and we had 7 people dying because of it and 7 people injured. This year, up to August, we had already 645. Mind you, this is because of the cyclonic storm that we had in June. The numbers just shot up. So we had 6 people dying this year already, and 1 person is injured. So the tree fall to death ratio in Mumbai is almost 3 times as in the whole of UK. And although it sounds very grim, there have been a lot of steps administratively taken, as well as from a technical point of view are being taken to reduce these incidents. Obviously, no one can stop this from happening, but we can manage it, control it, and reduce it as much as possible. So this is what's happening in Mumbai predominantly. We don't have much trained people. We have very courageous people, but not well trained. So he's almost camouflaged like a chameleon on a tree. You can't really see him, but he's got an axe in his hand, if you can just, yeah, and he's trying to prune the branch, just hanging on to it. So that's the sort of situation that we have, but that's the reason I'm here, and a tree officer from Mumbai is also here to change this thing and make sure that we move towards a better tomorrow for Mumbai and India. So that's a challenge. We don't have trained personnel. We have lack of trained personnel. And a lot of anecdotal knowledge goes around, especially among people from the tree workers that we have, that, oh, I did this last year, you should do this, you should try this. And there's no science, there is no theory, there is no actual technical knowledge behind it. It's just past experience, which just keeps on aggravating the problem every now and then. Obviously, poor health and safety awareness, as you can see from the picture. And sadly, yeah, there is no arborist recognition as of now, but we are working towards it. I'll come to it in the and the mindset of the people. I don't know if it's the right mindset or the wrong mindset, but it's just the mindset that we have, which is challenging or which is blocking us from getting the right things done on ground for us. So like any other big city, we have a lot of urban tree conflict. This picture is from the Pune city, and there's a beautiful mural on the left here, save trees basically. So we have a lot of affection and love towards the trees. We have a lot of NGOs and activists who are very, very active in all parts of India. And I'm not sure about the history of this, but probably this wall might have been around this road here. And due to urban growth, the roads were expanded, and they managed to keep these big trees, the banyan trees and the rain trees there. And that's how it is. That's how we are living around the trees, trying to keep as many trees as possible. So the whole city, not just Mumbai, but a lot of metro cities are being built around trees. And now the trees are outgrowing the space that they have. Because the ficus species that we have, they are usually planted in small pits a long time ago, and now they have just broken into the walls, damaged buildings, and they're just creating a nuisance now. And that's another reason why we have the conflict. We have a lot of rapid infrastructure growth going on, a lot of roads, bridges, and everything just happening in a very short period of time. And obviously there is another challenge that we have, probably in a lot of other, I imagine other councils might also have this. There's a lack of interdepartmental coordination, where what I mean to say is that the tree department issues a tree to be protected, but the next day the road department goes and just digs a pit around it and just prunes the roots and fills it back, and in the end, you know, the tree has collapsed or fallen after a few years. So that's what the network needs to be improved. The interdepartmental coordination needs to be improved, and as always, there is low or no priority to trees as well. In any other project you see, maybe an infrastructure project or any planning project, trees are least regarded or least important criteria for architects and project owners. So culture, trees are a huge part of a culture. You can see this lovely lady in the Indian attire, sari, just walking down the street here. And there's a ficus tree, the roots going through the stone wall here. So trees are quite sacred. They're quite revered. Some of the species, of course, they're more revered than the other ones. And we have a whole book on this called Sacred Plants of India. If you're interested, you can buy it on Amazon. Some really cool mythological stories related to trees. If you're interested, you should go on and buy it. We use lots of trees, the whole tree, as part of a ritual, or part of trees as part of our rituals. So especially in one particular day in the year, all the married Indian women, they wound a thread around the ficus tree just to depict they are going to have the same husband for the next 7 lives, you know. I don't know. I don't want to comment too much on that. So this is what the trees, how the trees are important for us. We have lots of trees in temples which are related to the particular gods and goddesses. So for example, Lord Shiva temples, we have a lot of Coropita guyanensis trees. If you have heard of it, it's a tropical tree. But the flowers of those trees are offered to Lord Shiva. So we have trees associated with those gods and which are planted in the temples. Lots of medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and natural medicine and food comes from trees. I'm sure you're familiar with this, the Indian spices. We have the myristica fragrance, then we have the cloves here, the cinnamon. They all come from trees. So trees are a big part of our cuisine as well. And we have a lot of old trees, heritage trees, veteran trees. I'm not sure what word to use. I've just put heritage trees here just to show what kind of old trees we have. So this is a 400-year-old banyan tree in Bengaluru city, just outside Bengaluru city. It's spread in about 3 acres of land. It's just a beautiful sight. You can actually walk through the tree. There's a nice trail. You can sit around, take pictures, but mind you, there's a lot of monkeys in there, so don't spend too much time down there. And this is a baobab tree in Hyderabad, again in south of India, Adansonia digitata, similar to Adansonia gregory that you find in Australia. So this is about 450-year-old, and it's massive, as you can see. So administrative and political challenges that we have. So this is the head office of the Mumbai Municipal Corporation, and where all the decisions for the city are being taken. So we have an existing policy for trees. It's called the Tree Act, and it was first established many years ago, and still we need to upgrade that. It's more like a guideline. It doesn't serve as a standard or a specification like how the previous speaker was just talking about how they have developed a standard for European countries. That is what we aim for, and that's what is probably the problem. If we have the standards in place, right, trained people in place, things might start to turn around. Project planning also needs to improve. This is too much to ask, I know that, but the priority of trees need to come up a little bit, especially in infrastructure projects where there's a massive loss of trees in a short period of time. The lack of due diligence. What I mean to say here is when something happens, that's when everyone starts running around. Is something wrong with the tree? What went wrong? But there is no systematic regime in place, and that's what needs to be done. And obviously, political will is really, really important. We can do everything, we can talk everything, we can bring the best people from the world. But if our politicians are not interested in having good trees in their cities, it just gets thrown away. So it's a really challenging situation, but we are trying our best. We are getting through some of the local politicians. I'll show that in some of the slides ahead, that how we are trying to change the political will in Mumbai. And global exposure, that's the reason we have the tree officer. We have invited him here to show him what's happening outside in other countries so that we can take the best and improve the situation and have the best people come and help us out on how arboriculture can become a huge industry in India. So it's not all dull and gloom that I've shown so far. We have a good potential as well. In terms of species diversity, we have hundreds and thousands of tree species, plant species there. And every year in monsoon, we have a massive tree plantation drive. So there's always a concern of trees being reduced or the green cover being reduced, but that has been taken note by the government, the current government, and every monsoon they do a massive tree plantation. And a lot of infrastructure projects have come in the past 5-6 years, which has caused a lot of trees to go away in a short period of time, but which also means there is a need to manage those trees responsibly. So that's why the infrastructure projects is a big potential for arboriculture industry. And that's the reason why there's a reason to set up the arboriculture industry, because you're losing trees faster than ever. So that's the Indian laburnum cassia fistula. I'm not sure if you have that here. I love this, one of my favorite trees. So the species diversity that we have more than 50,000 plant species. That includes trees, shrubs, and creepers and everything. And out of which more than 8,000 tree species are there in India, right from north to south, from all climatic conditions. And we have 4 major biodiversity-rich hotspots which have been identified by the United Nations as well and have been protected as eco-sensitive zones. Broadly, they are in the Himalayas and the northeast of India, the Andaman Nicobar Islands, and the Western Ghats along the western coast of India. So the tree plantation drive that we have every year from June to September, in 2017, the target was to plant 40 million trees, and the source is here. You can verify it if you don't believe me. They have achieved almost 54 million trees. They're not full-grown trees, but they're small saplings. But it's a good start, and they have a really good success rate, survival rate. So 2017, and then 2018, we had a target of 130 million, and we have achieved 158 million trees. And that's in most of the degraded lands where obviously you can't do such big plantation in the cities because there is no space. So the areas that they have selected is all in degraded forest land or barren lands outside the cities. And this year, we have achieved almost close to our target now. So hopefully by end of this month, we should be able to achieve 330 million trees. And that is only the state of Maharashtra, mind you. This is not the whole of India. It's just the state of Maharashtra that I'm talking about. And also in the city of Mumbai, recently we have been approved to plant or establish 100 Miyawaki forests. I'm sure everyone is aware of this term. It's a Japanese technique to build urban dense forests in city areas. So about 100 Miyawaki forests are going to be established soon in Mumbai. So the concern for green cover is slowly arising. And that's the research done by NASA for the leaf area percentage cover. So all the dark patches that you see shows all the dense leaf area cover. So, and India and China are the leading countries in doing that. So that's the study as per NASA. So infrastructure projects. We have a lot of metro lines coming up, and not just metro. We have massive long express highways, and then we have a lot of bridges coming up, coastal roads coming up, and it's all because of we have a very high GDP at the moment. So I don't know if this is going to be funny. If Brexit doesn't work out, you know where to come next. So as you can see, the GDP of India is quite high right now, but it was much higher a few years ago. It was almost 6.5%. It's slowed down now because of some economic. I'm not an economist, but yeah, it has slowed down a little bit. But India is the next destination for all the boom in growth and infrastructure, and all the money is there right now. So in 15 plus Indian cities, some are already in process, they're already in construction, some have been commissioned, and some are in planning stage and designing stage. So 15 plus Indian cities to have metro rail. So just one metro line in Mumbai, we had more than 3,000 trees. So imagine the number of trees that might be affected in so many metro rails. So there's such a potential to manage those trees responsibly and have a better urban life. So yeah, these are the types of projects that we are hoping to have in the long run, in the future. So what's happening currently? What's the industry like? So it's a lesser known term. Even if I tell someone I'm an arborist, 10 times they have to question what does it mean, what do I do? So it's a very lesser known term in India, and it needs a lot of awareness. There's a lack of arboriculture experts as well. We have a few not a few, but a lot of tree experts, foresters, landscape designers, and everyone. But that's what is the problem is. Arboriculture is something I believe needs to be dealt by arborists or people who are certified or have a proven knowledge to work in this. There's a lot of conflict sometimes in landscape designing between a landscape architect and arborists. So this is what is happening currently right now, and we need a lot more arborists than what we have in Mumbai, India. So yeah, just to the base point of the whole thing is we have a huge potential in India for arboriculture, right from training to actual execution of job and providing technologies and so on and so forth. So our story so far, you've seen what challenges we have, what potential we have, and we have already started working towards it. Me and my partner Romy here, he has been very supportive, and he has done some magic, let me tell you. So we did the first arboriculture impact assessment in Mumbai. This is not a stipulation for the architects or the project owners, but we managed to convince the client, the architects, that this is something that you need to do, because even if you have like 1 tree or 20 trees, it doesn't matter. You need to manage them responsibly and make sure you have the best trees on the site, and you bring back the trees that you lose, you bring back the best trees back onto the site. And so that's what we did. I'm sure you all are aware of this. So we finally managed to get some tree protection in place, and that's the best I could do. So much for convincing the clients. But they did put some scaffolding afterwards. I don't have the latest images, but they did show a lot of proactiveness in and supporting what we were trying to tell them. And in February 2019, we organized the first international arboriculture seminar in Pune, and it was organized by the Pune Municipal Corporation, the city of Pune. The Smart City, the Smart City is an organization. A lot of cities in India have this program called Smart City, say Pune Smart City or Mumbai Smart City or something like that, where they are integrating a lot of technology and ease of transport and everything into this. So there's a separate organization set up for that. And so Pune Smart City was one of the organizations who identified or who could resonate with us, with what you're trying to say, and they willingly supported us in our initiative. And obviously the Landscape Industries of Association of India was a big support as well. We had some great speakers from the UK, Singapore, and obviously from India as well. So we had almost 200 plus delegates attending almost a similar auditorium like this, and you have Jeremy captivating the audience with his talk. And we had, the delegates included a lot of government agencies, horticulturists, consultants, engineers, and students as well. A lot of students travel from different parts of the country who were really, really keen on knowing what actually arboriculture is, because we do have forest research institutes and forestry colleges in India everywhere, but there's no arboriculture college or a course or training anywhere. So that piqued their minds, and they traveled from different places to see what's this happening here. We had lots of stalls, displays and exhibitions. We have a couple of companies who import a lot of technology that you see here, the Picus, the registograph, and they had put it on display. And it was a big eye-opener for all the audience who had come there. They had no idea that tree is such a big industry, the arboriculture is such a big industry. There's so much of potential. And guess what? We also did the first safe tree climbing demo. So it's not all bad. We have people who can save us there, but we obviously it's too many, there's too little of them, and we need to bring in more expertise there. That's my friend. He's based in the south of India, but he's originally from Europe, in Germany. So he did a fantastic tree climbing demo, and the audience couldn't stop clapping because they had never seen a person using the foot ascender, knee ascender, and climbing up so gracefully, jumping around like a Spider-Man and then coming back down. They all had their mouths open throughout the demo. Yeah. So this is what we have been trying to do. We tried to bring in a tender recently, and the municipal corporation decided that it's time to get the change into the city. But it was a bad timing, maybe, I guess, and there was a lot of backlash, and because there were not many qualified arborists in the city, and the tender for pruning trees had to go ahead without the arborists. So we are going to try again after 2 years. Let's see what happens. And then one of the councillors, a political councillor in south of Mumbai, he identified, and he thought this is something that needs to be done. So he contacted us, and he asked us if we can do a risk assessment for about 100 trees in his area, and we got a very good media coverage. And obviously my partner Romy has a big hand, a big help behind this in getting this into a reality. And we finished the assessment in about a few weeks' time, and we found about 17 trees are in high risk categories. And this report was highly, highly appreciated by not just the councillor, but also by the municipal corporation, because they had something which they can work on now, because there was nothing that they had done similar before. So this probably could be a starting point, and once we go back, we could probably capitalize on the situation. So just to summarize quickly, the objectives for India, or let me put it this way, my objective, or our objective to come here is to show you everything that we have, the challenges, the potential, the good, the bad, everything, but also take the good things from you back and probably have even more longer relationship with some of you here and help develop an arboriculture industry or arboriculture society. So our intention is not just to set up a society, earn members, make money, and I don't know, do nothing about it. But we are seriously concerned about setting up standards. You saw the level of safety that we have. So setting up standards is really, really important for us, and that's the aim that we have from these arboriculture society that we're planning to set up very soon. And also to bring in more training and have at least 10,000 plus certified arborists in India. And when you say 10,000, it sounds like a big number, but when you talk in comparison to 1.2 billion people, it's nothing, So 10,000 seems very easy now. So that's the target that we have, and bring in more training and support to improve the standards of tree management and arboriculture and tree preservation in the cities. And obviously, like I said, we are more than open for international collaborations. We're already in collaboration with Jeremy and his company, and he's done a lot of help for us, and hopefully we'll have a longer relationship with him in getting things going for us. And obviously, if everything works out, make some more money out of it, and make it a multi-million-dollar industry. So that's about it from me. If you have any questions, I'll be here, and that's my number and email if you want to get in touch with me. That's all. Thank you so much.